Hello friends, welcome back to our channel Adami Education. Today we are going to discuss the answers of ICSE Physics 2026 question paper. So as you know that the exams are fast approaching and it is very essential that you have a good practice of the past year papers so that you are able to solve any kind of question which is asked to you. So today we are going to solve the MCQ questions. Let's see. The first question. For a body to be in dynamic equilibrium, the options are momentum should be 0, acceleration should be 0, kinetic energy should be 0 and the velocity should be 0. As you know, there are two types of equilibrium. One is static equilibrium and one is dynamic equilibrium. In static equilibrium, the object is completely at rest and all the forces acting on the object are such that it will not let the body change its position. Over here they are talking about dynamic equilibrium. This means that the body will continue to be in its state of motion. And when can a body remain in the same state of motion without changing the velocity? So the correct answer should be acceleration should be 0. So if velocity is not changing, acceleration is not present. So acceleration should be 0. So the correct option is option number B. The energy transformation taking place during photosynthesis in plants is, this is a very simple question. We know very well that in photosynthesis, the light energy from the sun is converted into chemical energy, that is the glucose produced by the plants. So option number 3 is the correct answer, light energy to chemical energy. The third question is a very unique question. Till now, I don't think it has been asked in any of the board papers. So make sure you are marking this as a very important one. The velocity ratio of a block and tackle system of two pulleys with the effort in the upward direction is given by. We know very well that in case of a block and tackle system, the velocity ratio is equal to the number of pulleys. We write it like this, velocity ratio is equal to n. But over here there is a statement or a phrase, it has been said that the effort is in the upward direction. So in this case what happens, the velocity ratio becomes n plus 1. That is the number of pulleys plus 1. So over here the number of pulleys were 2. So the velocity ratio will be 3. So this is possible only when the effort is in the upward direction. In the other cases, when the effort is in the downward direction, there will be no such provision. The velocity ratio will be equal to the number of pulleys in the system. Let's move on to the fourth question. From the figure given below, the refractive index of medium B with respect to medium A is. So medium B is this one, the upper one, and medium A is this one. So let's find out the answer. First of all, for medium A, let's find out the angle of incidence. So we know angle of incidence is equal to the angle between the normal and the incident ray. So this one will be my angle of incidence. So many students make mistakes. They directly consider 30 degree as the angle of incidence, but it is not. You have to remember the definition of angle of incidence. So let's find angle I. Angle I will be equal to 90 degree minus 30 degree, that is 60 degree. This is the angle of incidence, and if I want to find out the angle of refraction for medium B, of course, the angle of refraction is the angle between the normal and the refracted ray. So this is my angle of refraction. So it will be again 90 degree minus 45 degree, that is 45 degree. So my angle of incidence is 60 degree and my angle of refraction is 45 degree. Now let's quickly find out the refractive index. We know the formula of refractive index is sin I by sin R. So we got I as 60 degree. So sin 60 degree divided by sin 45 degree. So if the answers were in fraction, you could have put the values to find out the answer. But over here, the options are in terms of sign. So the correct answer will be option number 4. Hopefully you have understood this question. Next, let's move on to the fifth number question. This is a very direct one. When a blackened bulb thermometer is moved beyond the red region of the visible spectrum, there is a rapid rise in temperature. This is due to the presence of. So we can understand this by two methods, the correct answer, because we know one thing. There was a table given in your book in the chapter spectrum where it has been mentioned about how to detect the presence of various kinds of electromagnetic waves, and over there we have studied that infrared radiations will cause a heating effect, and if we bring a thermometer near it, the rise in mercury will be observed very clearly by placing the thermometer in the infrared region. So through the statement given to us, we can easily understand that it is infrared radiation. Also, it has been said that we are moving the thermometer beyond the red region of the visible spectrum, that is beyond VIBGYOR R, beyond the R side. So beyond R we have the radiation, infrared radiation, right, just beyond R. So the correct answer will be infrared radiation. Let's move on to question number 6. A fast moving cyclist stops pedaling on reaching a hilly track. If he continues to move with the acquired energy, then assuming no loss of energy, which of the following options will be correct? So you must have observed this very well, especially the kids who ride bicycle. When you move to the top of the hill and then you want to move down the slope, you don't have to pedal. Using the slope of the mountain only, you can easily cover the path. So what happens in any kind of motion? You have studied about this in chapter number 2, that the total mechanical energy of the system will always remain conserved. That is, the sum total of kinetic energy and potential energy is constant at every point of the motion. And this is possible in case of a roller coaster, in case of the motion of a pendulum, in case of motion of any object which is thrown against gravity or which is falling towards gravity. So the correct option over here will be the total mechanical energy remains constant. So without thinking much, in any kind of motion, when one energy is converting into another, especially if it is talking about potential and kinetic energy, this would be the answer always. Next question. The distance of a virtual image found by a lens of focal length 15 cm never exceeds a certain finite value. Then what will the value be? Let's see. So over here they are talking about virtual image. So we know generally virtual image is found by a concave lens. So let's make the ray diagram for it and let's try to understand the scenario. So if this is the focal length, let's imagine I am placing the object somewhere here. The first ray, it will move parallel to the principal axis and it will diverge, and if I produce it backwards, it will pass through the focus. The second ray will pass through the optical center. So the image will be formed here, right? So what do we see? In any case of the position of the object, the image will always be formed between the lens and the focal length. The position of the image will never exceed the focal length, right? So what can be the possible answer over here? It will be either less than or equal to 15 centimeter. If the object was at infinity, the image will be formed on the focus, and if the object is somewhere else, like the one which we have considered, it will always form between the lens and the focus. It will never form beyond the focus. So your correct answer will be option number 4, that is less than or equal to 15 centimeter. Okay, this is also a very important question, not directly asked, so you need to remember the ray diagram for answering this question correctly. Let's move on to an assertion reasoning question. One more thing, nowadays we see a lot of assertion reasoning based questions in the physics paper. So make sure you are practicing as many as questions like this, so that you can amp up your preparation for the upcoming board exams. And moreover, it will also be required in the competitive exams you wish to give in the later years of your life. And also in class 11 and 12, there are MCQ questions nowadays in which assertion and reasoning type questions are a very important part. Assertion says tiny air molecules scatter blue light more than red light. Yes, we know this well. This is the reason that blue is the color of the sky, because blue light has a short wavelength, and as a result it is very easily scatterable by the air molecules and the water droplets present in the atmosphere. So the assertion is definitely correct. Now the reason has been said that the refractive index of a medium is greater for blue light than red light. Yes, this is also true. The refractive index will be more for blue light as compared to red light. But does that explain the assertion? No. The reason for the assertion would be the small wavelength of blue light. So we can say that both the assertion and the reason are correct statements, but the reason is not able to explain the assertion properly. So the correct option will be option number D. Both assertion and reason are true, and R is not the correct explanation of assertion. Let's move on to the next question. It is from the chapter electricity. A very simple question. Even if a person is not very accustomed with circuits, they will still be able to answer the question. In the circuit given below, identify the lamp L1, L2, L3 and L4 whose failure would not interrupt the power supply to the other lamps. So as you can see from the diagram itself, if our lamp L2 does not function, or there is a short circuit in that particular arm, it is not going to affect the working of the other lamps, because the current will flow and it will move on to the 3 remaining lamps. So the correct option will be L2. Next question is, equal volumes of water are added to 3 cylindrical jars A, B and C having the same height and the same radii, RA, RB and RC respectively. Now our question is, which tube will produce the shrillest sound? So we know very well that shrillness is dependent upon the pitch, and the pitch of the sound will depend upon the length of the air column. Many people make this mistake that they consider the length of the water column, but no, it is the length of the air column. If the air column is more, the pitch of the sound will be less, and if the air column is smaller, then the pitch of the sound will be more. So let's find out what will be the length of the air column in each of the cases. Since we have been said that the height of each of the cylindrical jars is same and also the radius is same. Okay, the radius is not same. It has been said that RC, the radius of the jar C, is more than the radius of jar A and it is more than the radius of jar B. So we know that the volume of a cylinder is given by the formula pi r square h. So if the height is same, the volume depends upon the radius, right? So we can say very well that when water is poured into the jars, the jar which has the smallest radius, that is jar B, it will have the greatest height because its radius is very small. So it will require a larger height of the water in order to accommodate the same amount of water in it, right? That means if the height of this jar is the height of water in the jar is maximum, that means the size of the air column will be the minimum, right? So if the size of the air column is minimum, that means it will produce the shrillest sound, like we have just studied. If the height of the air column is more, then the sound will be less shrill, and if the height of the air column is less, then the shrillness of the sound will be more. So over here, since the height of the water column is more, that means the height of the air column will be less, so the shrillness will be more. So option number B will be the correct answer. So make sure you don't consider the height of the water column, you have to consider the height of the air column in this. Next, let's move on to the 9th number question. A metallic wire is stretched in such a way that its new length becomes twice the original length. How does its specific heat capacity change? Now we know very well that the specific heat capacity and the specific resistance in a wire is a phenomenon of the material, not of the size and shape of the wire. So if the wire is made out of the same material, if the material is not changing, then there shall be no change in the specific heat capacity or in the specific resistance. So in this question, the answer will be remains the same. There is no change because this is the inherent property of the material. Now if the material would have changed, if instead of using an aluminium wire I am using copper wire, then there would be a change. Otherwise there would be no change. Question number 11 now. Question number 12 now. The correct formula to calculate the equivalent resistance of two resistors R1 and R2 when connected in parallel is, so this is also a very direct question. 1 by R is equal to 1 by R1 plus 1 by R2. We know this is the formula for finding out the equivalent resistance in case of a parallel combination. So 1 by R will be equal to R1 plus R2 divided by R1 R2. So what will be R equivalent? R1 R2 divided by R1 plus R2. So the correct option is option number 2. Very easy one. Next, this is from the chapter electromagnetism or magnetism. The diagram below shows the top view of a wire shown by a cross. We know whenever cross sign is made, which represents the direction of the magnetic field, the direction of the magnetic field is into the plane of paper. That means imagine the magnetic field or the magnetic field, if I consider it is moving into the plane of paper, that means it is moving into the surface of the screen. Okay, so let's imagine this is the magnetic field. Now what is our question? Which of the compasses out of the compass 1 and 2 is showing the correct alignment of the magnetic field produced by the current carrying wire? So we know that a compass needle will tangentially arrange itself in the direction of the magnetic field. That means if the magnetic field is in this particular direction, the compass will also arrange itself in this particular direction. If the magnetic field is in this particular direction, the compass will align itself in that direction. Now, using the right hand thumb rule for a current carrying conductor, Since over here it has been said that the magnetic field is moving into the plane of paper from the outer surface, which we can see, that means the wire is carrying a current in the downward direction. So place your thumb finger in such a way that it is pointing towards the screen of the phone or towards the copy in which you are writing. So what will happen? Your fingers are encircling the thumb in the direction of the topmost diagram which I have made over here, right? They are circling the wire in the direction of the clock, or you can say the clockwise direction. So if the magnetic field is in the clockwise direction like I have made over here, the compass should also align itself in this direction. So which compass is giving the correct alignment? Compass number A. If the magnetic field was in the anti-clockwise direction, then compass 2 would have given the correct alignment. But in this case, our magnetic field is in the clockwise direction, which we can understand through the right hand thumb rule. Okay, so option number 1 is the correct answer. Only 1, or compass 1, is aligned. Next question is from the chapter calorimetry. So listen to this question very nicely. It is also a very important one. Three substances A, B and C of the same mass are present at respective melting points. On heating, if they melt completely in 5 minutes, 7 minutes and 3 minutes respectively, then which substance has the highest specific latent heat? So since the mass of the materials are same, but the amount of time that they take for melting completely is different, it is very clearly understandable that the object which takes the maximum time to melt will have the highest specific latent heat. So in our question, 7 minutes is taken by option number B, the maximum time. So option number B or the substance B will be the correct answer. It will have the maximum specific latent heat because it takes the maximum amount of time to melt. The mass was same, so we can directly judge it from the amount of time required for melting. The next question is also a very easy question, and you have studied about this in chemistry also in class 8 and 9. The atom of lithium contains 3 electrons, 3 protons and 4 neutrons. The mass number is. So you know very well that the mass number is equal to the number of protons plus the number of neutrons. So the number of protons is 3, the number of neutrons is 4. So the correct answer is 7. So we have finished the MCQ answers. Now we are going to move to the fill in the blank questions. Let's see. A car is moving in uniform circular motion. The direction of friction between the tires and the path is. It will always be towards the center. We are going to learn about this in class 11 in detail. We know whenever an object is moving in a circular path, the necessary motion is provided by the force called centripetal force. And since centripetal force is directed towards the center of the circular path, the direction of friction, or specifically if I say static friction, it will also be towards the center of the circular path. So the correct answer will be towards the center. When a ray of light passes from a denser to a rarer medium, okay, then what happens? We know when a ray passes from a denser to a rarer medium, its speed will increase, it will bend away from the normal. So if the speed is increasing, automatically the wavelength is also going to increase, because speed and wavelength are directly proportional from this formula. C is equal to F lambda, where C is the speed, F is the frequency and lambda is the wavelength. So if the speed is increasing, the wavelength will also increase. The lid of a calorimeter minimizes the heat loss by convection. So when we place a lid on any kind of hot container, what will happen? The air currents which are present outside will not be able to flow over the liquid, and as a result there will be no loss of heat from the liquid due to the process of convection. So this is directly given in the book in the chapter calorimetry, that the position of which particular things or the presence of which particular metal in the calorimeter will prevent the heat loss due to the various 3 factors. So this is the phrase which has been directly taken from the book. The next question is also very easy. Quality of sound depends on the waveform. So there are 3 kinds of characteristics of sound. One is the loudness, which depends on the amplitude. Next is the pitch, which depends upon frequency. And the last one is the quality of the sound, which is dependent upon the waveform. So the correct answer is waveform. A substance whose resistance becomes almost negligible at temperature near absolute zero is called a superconductor. So this is from the chapter electricity. You have studied about this already, that mercury at a given temperature, if I am not wrong, it is around 4.2 Kelvin, it will behave like a superconductor. Its conductivity will increase a lot and its resistance will be almost close to zero. dash radiation deviates minimum in a magnetic field. So if you see the chapter radioactivity, there are two diagrams, deviation of alpha and beta particles in magnetic field and electric field. In both the cases, alpha radiation will show the minimum deviation. So the correct answer will be alpha radiation. Hopefully this session was very much useful for you guys. We have completed the MCQ part of 2026 physics paper. Tomorrow we are going to do the long answer questions. We are going to divide the entire session in two halves so that it becomes easy for you to relate. After physics we are going to do chemistry, then biology, and then finally we are going to do maths. So stay tuned for more such videos on our channel and keep studying well, because you need to really score well and get the subject of your choice in your upcoming classes. Bye everybody. Have a great day ahead.